I'm 680 News Senior Business Editor Mike Eppel. If you think you were paying more for groceries or gasoline or even on your mortgages in the month of March, you are absolutely correct, as we saw an increase in the cost of living last month as tabulated by Stats Canada. The inflation rate nationwide rising to 1.9%. That's how much prices on average have gone up year over year. It's up from the February reading of 1.5%. As we have seen an increase in the price of the pumps. Certainly, fresh fruits and vegetables more expensive at the grocery store and various other items that we buy on the rise. Does it mean much for interest rates? The Bank of Canada uses the inflation rate as a gauge for setting interest rate policy. And it's holding close to that 2% threshold, which is where the Bank of Canada wants to keep it at a target. And there are still signs of moderating economic signals elsewhere. So steady as she goes for interest rates in the forecast, and not much reaction on the currency trade to the inflation data today. Well, is pot piling up? Some Stats Canada data on the sales of legal cannabis for the month of February actually is showing a slowdown in sales activity from the January data. Now, some of that has had to do with the fact there are fewer months or days in the month of February, but still in all, Stats Canada reporting that sales fell 9%. January to February, and the inventory of cannabis is on the rise, up by as much as 17%. There have been some critics saying that the legal price for cannabis is still not competitive enough to the black market, and that could lead to less sales going forward. Well, is it a case of know when to fold them, or discretion being the better part of valor? Apple suddenly late Tuesday announced it was dropping a 2-year legal challenge against one of its key suppliers, Qualcomm. It's been arguing that it was paying too much in royalties to Qualcomm, and that stunning announcement took the market off guard, and shares of Qualcomm have spiked 35% over a 2-day time frame. What's happened here is that Apple may have realized that it needs Qualcomm for its 5G technology for the next generation of iPhones. This after Apple's other supplier, Intel, said it's probably not going to be ready for the next wave of 5G smartphone technology. So it forced Apple's hand to make good with Qualcomm. It's going to pay millions in royalty fees, and Apple might make a little bit of money on that as well going forward. Netflix earnings look pretty good, as the company says it has close to 150 million subscribers globally in its latest quarterly earnings update. Big question for investors, will Netflix face some price competition with new entrants into that video streaming market? With recently announced plans to get into video streaming from Apple and Disney, with its Disney Plus service, which are going to start at much lower prices than Netflix. It had the stock of Netflix holding steady on Wall Street today. And another failure in the aviation industry, as India's second biggest airline, Jet Airways, today announced that it was suspending all flights and operations as it has basically run out of money. They were looking for new funding. They're partly owned by Etihad Airways, but at the same time, this company, which has been around since 1991, suspending all operations globally, and it could be as many as 20,000 jobs at risk. From the 680 Newsroom, I'm Mike Eppel for City News.